Right. So I would like to welcome you to the first information session for the 16th annual First Nations Launch Competition. Uh, we will be hosting it April 25th through 27th next year, but it's going to be a fun few months as we build up to it. So to start off, sort of a virtual introduction, we have Connie, Christine, and myself from the Wisconsin Space Grant team joining us today. We also have Kevin Crosby, who is the director of the Space Grant, Megan Goller, who is our accounts assistant. They're also crucial for the competition, but just were not able to join us today. Also, that you guys will get to know along the way, part of our administrative team or technical team, as we'll refer to them, Frank Noble from Wisconsin Tripoli, Mark Abataswe from Blue Origin, Brittany Nez from GE Aerospace, and Bob Justice from Illinois Tripoli. And then, of course, as this is a NASA competition, an Artemis Student Challenge competition, we do have a NASA rep. That person is Grace Johnson. She's located at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So what is First Nations Launch? So this is a high power rocketry competition targeted towards tribal colleges and universities, Native American serving non-tribal institutions, and as one of our biggest draws is through the American Indian Science and Engineering Society collegiate chapters. So those are sort of how you can be eligible to compete, but otherwise, the big thing is it is for undergraduate students to conceive, design, fabricate, and compete with high power rocketry. So the photos that you see were from last year's competition. We had a payload challenge. So that's where you see the sort of make out a drone sitting up on the top photo. But we did have them in pretty substantial rockets last year. No worries, we won't be doing that this year. Sort of a every few years kind of challenge. We'll do the massive rockets. So with that, as you see bullet 3, we do restrictions on the motors and the dimensions of the rocket, whereas it focuses your efforts on a specific engineering challenge. So this year, our focus is on avionics. So we have a challenge that'll be including extra electronics in your payload bays. Nothing that's deployed out, just extra sensors to try to track and understand the rocket and the flight parameters. But overall, the end goal is to have a fun aerospace learning experience that's unique to the Native American community. So to help with that, we have a little trailer I'll play.
The First Nations launch has been just an amazing opportunity for me.
The whole goal is to design, build, and fly a rocket.
We launched our rocket earlier this day, and it was really exciting.
No matter what team they're on, everyone works together.
The camaraderie that's built among the teammates and the team members, students, advisors, grad students, undergrads.
Launching our rocket for the first time was exciting. I didn't know what to expect, so just watching it up in the sky and being able to hear it was just amazing.
So this is what we're working towards is competition weekend. It's a lot of prep work and planning and efforts that'll go in from both all of the teams and from our side to make sure it's a fun experience. And as I hope you see from the photos, students enjoy it for the most part, I promise. So it ends up being a Friday, Saturday, potentially Sunday. So it's over a weekend. But try to make it a little easier for schedules because we know this ends up being around finals for some schools, depending on how the school year goes for each college. So this is sort of a high level breakdown of what we end up doing. So Friday, everyone will be joining. We'll be doing all the registration, welcome breakfast. We'll have a sort of mini rocket fair where everyone gets to showcase what they did, how they accomplished it, and show off the amazing art that goes into the rockets. Uh, we'll do motor build workshop. We'll have a few breakout sessions. I'm trying to include a few more industry partners for some showcases there. But otherwise, we'll have final safety inspections from Tripoli. And then in the evening, we will finish off with some oral presentations. And then our launch day is on Saturday, weather willing. It'll be a fun day until about 3 o'clock. And then we'll come back to the campus for a closing banquet. So award ceremony, closing banquet. If weather is too inclement for us to launch in, we do have Sunday as a backup. So with that, so what will go into our launch teams this year? So we have a goal of 24 NASA sponsored teams. So that ends up being US teams. We do allow a little wiggle room with that for some of our international competitors from Canada through their ACES chapters to compete. We don't directly factor them into the 24 because 24 is for what we are sponsoring with extra support. So high level calendar, our NOIs for Moon and Mars challenges are due October 24th. Gateway is welcome and encouraged to submit an early bird notice of intent that same day, but their notice of intent isn't officially due until December 9th. And let's see, a major change this year for our Moon and Mars teams. We've adjusted some of our milestones. So if anyone who's reviewing this webinar, we've adjusted some of our milestones to be a little earlier to give a little more time between each milestone. So with that, we will have your first proposal due also with NOI for Moon and Mars teams. So award announcements. So that's sort of the confirmation that you've made it into the competition. Those will be sent out on October 28th for the Moon and Mars level. Gateway, that award announcement goes out on December 16th. Kickoff meetings for each challenge varies a little as well. Moon and Mars, that will be on October 29th. Gateway, that'll be January 7th. So the reason for the big difference between Moon and Mars and Gateway is our entry level challenge or division. So those students are building off of a kit. So it doesn't take as much time and they're not doing as much of the engineering for whatever the specific annual challenge is. So they don't require as much time for that. Moon and Mars, you guys will be having a few more milestones to hit along the way, but it'll be a fun year. To help with that, for anyone who may be unfamiliar or uncomfortable with rockets, if you are not already certified with Tripoli Rocketry or the National Association of Rocketry, so those are the two main organizations across the country that support hobby rocketry of this level, we have a workshop course. Let's see. So 3 individuals per school. So that ends up being 1 advisor, 2 students. And then we will do 15 participants for our in-person workshop, and then 30 participants for the virtual workshop. Our in-person workshop, that one will be, oh, I apologize, I did not include the date on here. But the in-person workshop will be early November, 2nd and 3rd. The virtual workshop will be in January. But I will advise, if you are interested in participating in the workshop, the due date for that will be before NOI. So we do encourage you to keep an eye on our website and put in the applications. But application for the workshop does also require an NOI to be submitted for the competition. So another thing for this being a NASA competition, we have to interface with the NASA STEM Gateway. So all NASA education programs have a database that they work with for all their activities to help with tracking, longitudinal tracking and whatnot. So for that, it's not a huge onus on our participants, but we do require that you are required to make a profile in the system, and then there will be an email that'll go out sort of tying you to the First Nations launch. So as that goes out, we'll just ask that you make sure to accept that invitation when you get to it. A walkthrough is available in the handbooks. Please disregard this link. It'll be switching. That's to our handbook from last year. So into the challenges. So for Gateway, as I said earlier, it is a little bit of an easier challenge, but it is based off of different kit builds. So we have 3 different kits each year. The rockets selected for the kits are meant to align with the same style rockets that the Moon and Mars challenges will be constructing. But we try to make it a little easier. So we have 3 different rockets selected, and we have 2 different motors that will correspond to each rocket. And it's just a matter of picking a rocket and then picking a motor to go with that to hit, the target altitude as you see here. So it's a pretty standard flight. All of our rockets in the competition are dual deploy. So what that means is at the top of the arc for a rocket launch, as you can see up here at the top of the picture, you'll have the first parachute deploy that's called a drogue that helps with quick descent, trying to bring down a lot of the altitude before the main parachute, which is a lot slower and could have more drift. But that's where you have 2 deployments for the dual deploy. So with this, we will have some minor electronics involved for just making sure you have your deployments set correctly. But otherwise, there is no specific payload challenge for this. So teams are welcome to include extra sensors or whatnot in their payload bay, but it is not a direct challenge requirement to do so. The main requirement is the altimeter. Altimeter and tracking, so you can find your rocket, because sometimes they may drift. Our launch site does have some good trails to hike, so depending on when your main parachute goes, it could be a little bit of a walk. But with this, just a reminder of our webinars. Gateway's kickoff will be January 7th, and then we have a project management webinar, which goes through a lot of the sort of a high-level walkthrough of the Gateway Challenge. That'll be on January 14th for the teams. Some extra info about the rockets. And as we said, we have 2 pre-selected motors that go with each kit, and then each team will just have to pick between those 2 motors to try to hit the target altitude that your team would like to within the limit. So for our bigger challenges, we'll start off with Moon. Both Moon and Mars are designing, testing, and fabricating a minimum 4-inch diameter rocket. And then 2 sensors need to be integrated into it beyond the altimeter and, tracking that is standard. So rockets in this challenge are going to 3,000 or 4,000 feet. And we have a challenge parameters webinar that will be on November 5th. So that will go through the different sensors that are included, like the options that are in there, and then what's sort of expected of you as a team. As you see, Mars is very similar. The main difference between Moon and Mars this year, the target apogee range that is given is a little bit smaller, so 3,200 to 4,000 feet versus just the 3,000 to 4,000 on Moon. And then Mars will also have to integrate 5 sensors into their rocket as opposed to just 2. So the Moon and Mars projects, they end up being judged on written design reports, We'll have virtual presentations at different milestones, and then we also have a launch weekend presentation with our judges that have joined us. And then, of course, there is, of course, the flight itself. How well did the flight go? How well did you integrate the sensors? Did they track everything? Did you get the data back? Did it give you a full story? And of course, this will all coincide with the different milestones. So proposal, preliminary design review, critical design review, flight readiness review, and post-launch assessment report. So PLAR is done after the competition, but it is sort of just a summary of your results. We do have bonus points that can be earned through outreach efforts. So that would be it's sort of open-ended for what teams would like to do, but the hope is to help encourage the teams to give back to their communities and help spark the next generation into following in your footsteps that you guys are creating. And then to also include, so as this is an electronics challenge this year, neatness and simplicity of your payload bay is one of those factors that will tie into your final scores from the judges. Then a high level breakdown. Most of it's pretty consistent all the way through for the written reports and virtuals. Oral presentation, 5 points. So as you see, the launch weekend is a bulk of your scores coming from all of the work that you put in up until launch weekend. And then with the education outreach, those are bonus points, go above the 100 total points. And then as we say, most of our due dates are all set for Mondays. So Monday by midnight Central, any day after that will be a 20% deduction for being late. And it'll scale down from there. So for design reports overview, so the goal is this to help communicate what engineering and design effort your team has put in, to allow you guys to perform analysis of what your predicted performance is. With the PLAR, you'll end up having more of that comparison of actual to predicted, but with Moon and Mars, as you guys may be doing some testing along the way, you may want to include some of those test results as part of that comparing actual to predicted in there. And of course, always encouraged to include pictures, diagrams that helps give the full story of what you're working on. Because sometimes we may read through, but it is a little tricky for conveying a story without photos. So of course, always keep an eye on our website calendar for when the due dates are, and we will have updated report and presentation templates on the website within the next week or so. So the extra support that we provide to the teams. So we have marketing and recruitment materials. So we have posters and postcards. We have sent them out to most schools. We will have electronic files posted on the website later today that teams are welcome to download and print off as you guys would like to help with recruitment. As we said, we have the rocketry workshops. So we have here. It's actually November for our in-person and then January for the virtual. We do have a project award of $4,000 that is sort of base for all the US teams. And those are all handled as reimbursements issued back from Carthage College to their school after you guys have incurred those costs. We do have 2 checkpoints that are in the calendar for when we encourage you to get those reimbursements sent over to us. If needed, we could work with them sooner, but the big thing is we need to make sure that we don't go too far in the summer, as we do have to close out each year. But there are additional travel funds that are available upon request. So this will be handled during award acceptance. We will have a little extra box in there for you to tick stating if your team is coming from more than 1,000 miles away from Carthage College. For new colleges and universities that are participating in the competition, we do have some rocketry reference books that we are happy to send out. So Modern Rocketry, Rocket Design and Construction, and Modern High Powered Rocketry 2. So after we get the team selected is when we'll have those sent out. And of course, all the teams will receive report feedback from our judges at least 1 week prior to when the next report is due. So this year we've tried adjusting some of our milestones a little sooner. And that is the hope of that was to give more time back to the teams to take the feedback and then incorporate that into adjusting your design, working like incorporating that feedback into your upcoming report, and so on. We will be sending out a lower powered rocket for a demo flight. So that's an SD style rocket. Very easy, but it is an analog to what the larger rockets will do. So this gives you just that baseline knowledge of like, okay, this is what, the standard components of a rocket. And luckily with those, there are less flight restrictions. With our high power rockets, there are fewer launch sites around to launch those from than you might think. But for these SD rockets, those generally can be done in a larger field. You don't need to have like FAA waivers and whatnot. And then for the competition weekend, we do provide the ejection charges. We will provide a motor. So as the teams will go through, select those, let us know which ones you guys will be using. We will have secure those motors, and we will have the appropriate casings also to go with them. So when you guys are coming to the competition, it's pretty much whatever tools you might want to work on your rocket for those final touches. Otherwise, we will have the motors for you. You guys just need to bring your tools and the rocket. We will provide a hotel accommodation. So we do a maximum of 3 rooms for 3 nights at one of our partner hotels. And of course, during the weekend, we provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner on Friday and Saturday. Sunday, as it's the rain date, we don't normally plan for it because historically we haven't had to use it for anything but certification flights. So anyone that wanted to do a level 1 certification, we can normally support that. So, some support that we provide to the faculty staff advisors at your schools. So if it's a new faculty or staff member advising a team, we are happy to help pair you up with a veteran advisor from the competition. We're happy to help bounce ideas off to help brainstorm outreach activities, help you find a rocketry mentor. So while we do have our technical team of Frank, Mark, Brittany, and Bob, we can't depend on them for everything. So that's why we ask the teams to have a local mentor, local rocketry mentor to help with some of those questions that you guys will have along the way as you guys are building and wanting to, bounce ideas off of. They're crucial for that. Plus, it's great to always find out who your local person is. That way, if you guys want to do other rocket launches, they can help you find the fields, secure the motors to do that. Or even if you guys want to do a test flight of your rocket before the competition, just be careful so you don't damage it. But they can help you secure a motor and then, of course, with the flight itself. And then, of course, there are next step opportunities from the competition. So this, as it's an Artemis STEM challenge from NASA, there are other competitions. The NASA student launch is one that we are happy to send teams to. They've done quite well. NASA Rock On is a electronics workshop working on payloads, quite exciting. That normally happens in June. And then Spaceport America Cup is, one of the premier rocket competitions of the country side of NASA. So alternate options. So for our advisors and mentors, some of the requirements. So for our faculty staff advisors, it is on them to submit the NOI. The team leader will help submit some of those documents that are required along the way, but it is on the faculty to get the first NOI in. And then, of course, our hope is that they will help with securing a workspace on campus, help figure out how to coordinate the purchases, travel arrangements to the competition. And then for our rocketry mentors, it is that local guidance, so that planning, construction, as you guys are working through the rockets. And of course, if you guys want to do a local launch attempt, you need to have a certified TRA or NAR member in order to purchase a motor. So the motors that we have, you have to at least have that baseline certification to be able to purchase and use. We have a wealth of resources available on our website, and we try to update it as often as possible with anything new and extra stuff that we have. We also have a suite of videos, instructional videos, 10 to 15 minutes in length, that cover different aspects of the build process. So we have one on rock sim, we have one on construction. So it is helpful to go through those, review them as you need. It gives you extra background knowledge as you guys are working through. And as we've mentioned a few times, we have a few webinars available that are meant to support and help you guys get through this. Some of our attendance has been a little lacking, so we're going to try to stress it a bit more this time around. So major one for the Moon and Mars teams, you guys will want to pay attention to the challenge parameters on November 5th. So that will be going through the specifics of those sensors that were selected and how you guys need to use them. Good for newer teams, or as you guys are trying to refresh some knowledge if other team members have graduated. We have an introduction to RockSim. So we have a live webinar on RockSim. We have a few videos available on our website about it, and we have a few different printed resources available throughout handbooks and on the website, also providing guidance on RockSim. And that is our preferred system for use of rocket simulation. And it is, I know there is Open Rocket out there, but we have it standardized for all teams. So it's a consistent, that way we're comparing apples to apples versus apples to oranges, going between both different systems. Also with RockSim, there is a discount available for a license for it. Instructions for that is always provided with our like the award announcement and whatnot as you guys are progressing in. We'll have a project management webinar, structures, and then we'll have a project management for Gateway on January 14th. So that sort of the high level overview, as well as going through some of their competition aspects. An altimeter avionics workshop on the 21st of January. And then as we get closer to the competition weekend is when we'll move into recovery, build, and assembly. So different thoughts on those. And then just a few weeks before competition is when we'll go through giving more information about our launch site, what's the workflow for it, as you guys are going to be checking, like finishing up your rockets, getting everything ready as you guys want to walk over to the launch pad. That'll be covered in that webinar on April 8th. And then just to sort of give you guys a look at the calendar in case you haven't already. It does look full, but it is spaced out pretty nicely. And of course, always go back to the website in case there are any updates or changes to this as we go through. But most of our main items, so webinars and milestones, those dates are pretty well set. It just may be some other small things that may adjust along the way. So with that, it was a bit of information to cover, but happy to open it up for any questions that you guys might have.
Hi, I think the only question I had at this point was, the process for registering or starting the NOI. I just wanted to clarify. I have to have my student team lead register before I can start the NOI process.
Is that correct, Connie?
Yes. So the student registers on the website. You send in your NOI and then they apply after that. This way it helps the system be able to accept your notice of intent to compete. And Denise, can I ask you what school you're with?
College of the Muskogee Nation.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful. We're happy to have you guys come back.
Thank you.
Now, if one of your if your team lead has already registered because they've been involved in the past, then they don't need to do that. You can go ahead and send in your notice of intent. It's just that they need to be in our system.
Well, I'm new here, and the person that led the team last year, or the advisor for the team, is not here anymore. So I'm not sure who that student leader was.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, if you hang on, I can tell you.
Okay.
And then while Connie is looking for that, Denise, I will say, if you go on our website, so this is the landing page for it. Over here on the left, we have application process, and that can help walk you through that process. But of course, please reach out to us as often as you need to help walk through that process.
Thank you so much. I do have one more question.
Of course.
If we want to attend the build in November, and there's funding for travel, that doesn't keep us for qualifying for travel to the competition, correct?
It is separate.
Okay.
So it's just you need to be it's more so you have to be a competitor of FNL to participate in the Launch to Learn, but it does not impact the funding that you have available for the competition directly. So that 4,000 and travel augmentation is separate from any Launch to Learn reimbursements.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So Denise, just stay on the line, and I'll give you that information when we're finished.
Okay.
Marcos, Aurora, any questions?
I do have one question, yes. If I'm already level 1 certified, do I have to resubmit my certification? Do you know, like, if that's expired as of last year when I got that certification done?
Yeah, yes, it's an annual thing. So unless you
Renew.
I'm assuming that you would have done it before the launch date. So I'm assuming that by the next launch date, it will have expired. So
Yeah,
it is an
okay.
annual, and you can use part of that $4,000 in funding for you and the other teammates to pay for that
Renewal.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I know it does get it can be a little pricey at times. All right. Marcos, any questions?
I think I'm good.
Great.
And Marcos, are you with UCLA? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. I think with that, there are no other questions. Unless Christine or Connie, would you like to just say anything to them before we close out?
Just thank you so much for coming. I hope we were able to answer some of your questions and spread the word, build your team.
I would concur. Glad you guys are interested. We look forward to receiving an NOI, and our team is here to assist and help in any way that we can.
All right. Well, with that, I just want to say thank you guys for joining us. And we look forward to seeing your applications.
Thank you.